Did you guys know that in Hindu mythology, they believe that the earth was placed on the backs of 8 gigantic elephants who were standing on the back of an enormous turtle, that itself was standing on the coals of a snake, and that whenever any of these animals shifted or lost balance, that was the reason for earthquakes. California is known for having many earthquakes, and it's anticipated that there will be a major one coming to us anytime soon. And for the reason you all live in California, you should know how to be better prepared for an earthquake. I myself have been in a minor earthquake before, and I recall being very scared, but I feel that I was more scared because I didn't know what to do. Now that I've done the research and have the information on how to be better prepared and equipped for an earthquake, I will share that information because I believe it can be useful to all of you. Having the knowledge of knowing what to do during an earthquake can higher your chances of survival. First, I will talk about how to be safer indoors, then I will discuss emergency kits. Lastly, I will talk about what actions you should take during an earthquake. An earthquake can strike any day, and we don't know how much damage it will do and for how long we will be affected by it. That is why the smart thing to do is to ensure your needs, which would be food and water. A human can only go without food and water for so long. In an article called Emergency Preparedness and Response, published by the Department of Health and Human Services, last updated in January 16, 2014, says that the minimum drinking water for one person is 1 gallon a day, and there should be enough stored for 5 days. They also suggest you keep stored canned food and dried food, also to make sure that these foods are neither spicy nor salty, because that would just cause more water consumption. I know at first it may feel a little silly and overdramatic preparing for the just-in-case situation, but I strongly encourage you guys to use this strategy because in the long run, you just might be preventing you and your family from days of starvation. Yes, it is important to have stored food and water, but it's also in your best interest to not get injured. Because during earthquakes, things go falling and flying across the room, there are possibilities of getting injured. Items that are heavy, pointy, and breakable are a serious problem. In an article, it says to fasten your shelves securely to walls. They say this because they want people to avoid being trapped under heavy objects during a shake. And it's also a good idea for you guys to hang your picture frames and mirrors away from your beds and couches, because if it falls, it won't land on anybody. I know it may be a hassle to rearrange some of the items in your household, but I guarantee you that it won't mean a thing if it prevents a loved one from being hurt. Now that I've discussed how to be safer indoors, I will now move on to emergency kits. Another strategy you guys should take into consideration is having an emergency kit ready to go, because during an earthquake, it's possible that you or someone you're with gets hurt, and an emergency kit will provide you with the utilities you need to properly care for the wound. And because you don't know where you're going to be during an earthquake, I advise you guys to keep a kit at home, at work, and in your car. In an article called Get a Survival Kit from the Red Cross, last updated in 2015, says that an emergency kit consists of certain items. Some of the items they mentioned were Band-Aids, gauze, tape, copies of personal documents, a whistle, a multi-purpose tool, medication, or a flashlight. For instance, if you happen to be in a dark and unnoticeable area, you can use your whistle to help be noticed and rescued. And if you come upon a circumstance in which you have to prove your identity, copies of personal documents will be strong evidence. These are only some of the many items you can use that can be useful during a natural disaster. I encourage you and all your families to have an emergency kit that properly suits the needs of every family member. And every family member should know where this emergency kit is located and should be able to reach it within an instant. Now that I've discussed how to be safer indoors and why emergency kits are useful, I will now move on to what actions you should take during an earthquake. During an earthquake, some people panic and freeze, others just panic and run around like crazy. But you should know that there are safe actions you can take. Many people believe that the safest protocol is to quickly run to the nearest doorway and hold on. But you guys should know that this isn't as safe, because for one, once you get up to go rushing toward the doorway, it's likely that you could fall and hurt yourself. And even if you do manage to make it to the doorway, Holding on isn't going to protect you or shield you from any objects that are flying your way. In an article called Earthquakes, written and published by Ready.gov, last updated in May 6, 2015, says that the first thing you should do is drop, cover, and hold on. Because when you drop, you have more control of where you're landing, as if an earthquake drops you, you don't have as much control. And when they say cover, they mean cover your neck, and if possible, go under any low furniture in which you can cover your head or your body. And in another article from Earthquakes, Country Earthquakes, it says that if you happen to be on your bed when an earthquake strikes, simply stay there, turn around, grab your pillow, and cover your head and your neck, because chances are you'll be safer there than as if you get up, and because you're most likely to fall or step on something. Knowing what to do and not to do during an earthquake is important to prevent injuries, and it's also in your best interest to know the correct protocol to ensure a safety outcome. So to wrap things up, I hope you all have a better understanding of how to prepare and react to an earthquake, and comprehending why it's crucial to plan and prepare for an earthquake can benefit you and those around you. First, I discussed how to be safer indoors. Then I discussed why emergency kits are useful. Lastly, I talked about what actions you should take during an earthquake. You can't stop Mother Nature. The best thing you can do is prepare for the worst. So where will you be when the next earthquake hits? And will your knowledge of safety ensure your survival?